what world would an aircraft-mounted rocket be considered a defensive tool rather than an offensive weapon? In War Thunder, obviously. In this game, ZUNI rockets are just one of many things that are improvised to suit a different purpose. Since the ZUNI we have in War Thunder is not the air-to-air variant, it's presumed that ground attack is its main purpose. For that, the ZUNI comes strapped with nearly 9 kilograms of TNT equivalent explosive mass per rocket, enabling it to one-shot most, if not all, ground units with a direct hit. So obviously, for its intended use, it is quite effective. But this video is not covering its intended use, but rather its secondary and tertiary use. The first alternate function of the ZUNI is to act as a makeshift flare. This is by far the most important feature, as the major pitfall of many jets at rank 6 and 7 is the lack of any sort of countermeasures. To name a few prominent examples, the F-4C, a handful of starfighters, and the star of this video, the Mitsubishi F-1. The F-1's main weakness is that while it can pull plenty of AOA, it doesn't actually turn all that well. This frequently opens up angles for the enemy team to get a missile off on it, and in its matchmaker, missiles with a minimum overload of 18G are the standard. 9 times out of 10, an AIM-9J equivalent being fired at your F-1 under 1.5 kilometers will result in unavoidable death. But with a loadout including ZUNIs, your odds are taken to 1 time out of maybe even 100 or higher. All you have to do is make sure your aircraft is under Mach 1 and treat the ZUNI like a large caliber flare. That is to say, you should still follow the proper procedure for flaring missiles. Drop burner and change course while deploying. While the impact ZUNIs have on flight performance is non-negligible, it's more than worth the massive survivability upgrade. Take a look at all these clips and realize that nearly each one is preventing certain death. Now, for the second, more offensive alternate function of the ZUNIs. I already showed that. But what I haven't done is explain it. You would be forgiven for using the intro as basis for the assumption that these rockets have a proximity fuse. What they have instead is a distance fuse. A distance fuse can be set to tell the rockets to self-detonate after flying a certain amount of distance. Don't get me wrong, it is still very difficult to hit shots with this, as the splash damage is incredibly inconsistent. However, this doesn't mean they still can't be effective in both scoring kills and being flashy. My personal settings, and what I find most success with, is the 800 meter fuse option. From experience, this has allowed me to get longer range kills while still having the ability to shoot in close quarters. As for actually securing kills, the most important thing to factor in is the closure rate between you and your target. With a higher rate, you generally want to fire sooner. However, you should take into account your own airspeed as well. Since the ZUNI's flight time is dependent on distance flown, it will take more time to cross the 800 meter threshold when launched from slower speeds. Fool.